As I stepped out of the taxi, the rich scent of tomatoes, garlic, and basil greeted me. The familiar cobblestone pavement was underfoot, and the thick evening air wrapped around me. My restaurant, the one I had poured my heart into all day, had been crafted entirely by hand, built with dedication and sweat. Tonight, I expected to be met by the familiar symphony of clinking dishes, chatter, and the steady hum of my kitchen running like a well-oiled machine. But something felt wrong. The usual energy was missing. The staff seemed distant, and some family members busied themselves with distractions, pretending not to notice me as I walked through the dining room. I pushed forward, hoping to find that spark that once made this place feel so alive, but it wasn't there. That's when I saw him, a stranger, lounging in my chair, a half-full glass of deep red wine swirled lazily in his hand. With a slow, deliberate smile, he set the glass down on my desk. "Oh, you're back," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. I glared at him, my grip tightening on my bag. "Who the hell are you?" He slowly lowered his feet from the desk, leaning forward in his sharp suit, his laugh full of arrogance. Confidence oozed from him with every word, and his perfectly styled hair gleamed under the lights. "I'm the new CEO of Shows," he said smoothly. "Of course. Our wife made it happen." My stomach churned. Before I could even process what he said, he retrieved a stack of legal documents from my desk drawer. "Adriana signed them all," he added casually. Then I heard her voice, detached and cold. "You're out of date," she said. "This place needs innovation." My chest tightened with the sting of betrayal. This restaurant, my dream, my recipes, was being stripped from me. Trembling, I pulled out my phone. A stranger had just claimed ownership of my life's work. I dialed Adriana's number, my heart pounding, and she picked up almost instantly, her voice carrying amusement. "It took you long enough to call. What the hell is going on?" I demanded, fury bubbling beneath my skin. She sighed, as though I were a child throwing a tantrum. "Oh, come on, darling. You knew this was coming. He's a businessman. He has vision. You're stuck in the past." Then came the final blow. "You're fired, dear. You're just a cook. Do yourself a favor and move on." The line went dead, and the world around me seemed to tilt. My chest burned with the sting of her words. Turning back to the man in my seat, his smirk widened. I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to break in front of him, but I stayed silent. Without a word, I turned and walked away, past the faces I once considered family. They couldn't meet my gaze, their heads lowered in shame as I stepped out the door. As I glanced up, my name still hung on the sign above the restaurant. Adriana and her new CEO thought they had won, but they had no idea what they had just done. Soon enough, they would regret it. For 3 months, I disappeared. No calls, no messages, no social media updates. Adriana wanted a reaction, a scene, a spectacle. She got nothing from me. At first, the pain was unbearable, the sting of betrayal pressing down on me like a stone. I spent sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment when I walked into my own restaurant, finding a stranger sitting in my chair, hearing her voice coldly tell me I was fired. I had built Zeno's from nothing, before the 5-star reviews, before the marble countertops, before the wealthy investors. I was the one who spent years perfecting the dough, the sauces, the plating. But Adriana wanted more prestige, more luxury, whatever she thought I was holding her back from. So I let her have it. I walked away without a fight, but that didn't mean I wasn't watching. At first, the messages from Adriana were smug. "Savos is thriving without you," she wrote. "We're updating the menu. You were the dead weight we had to cut off." I never replied. Deep down, I knew something she didn't. A restaurant isn't just about the food, the renovations, or the marketing. It's about the soul. Without that, Chino's was just another overpriced, soulless dining experience. Months went by, and then one evening, I received a message from Marco, my former head chef. You need to call me. It's urgent. Intrigued, I dialed his number. You won't believe what's happening at Savo's, he said, his voice tense. Try me, I replied. He let out a dry chuckle. It's falling apart. My grip tightened on the phone as he continued. Adriana's golden boy is completely out of his depth. Customers are hating the new menu. Investors are freaking out. And the kitchen's a mess. I grabbed my laptop and quickly pulled up Savo's Yelp page. What I saw made my stomach turn. The sauce tastes like it came from a jar, bland and overpriced. What happened to the fresh, homemade pasta? This place had soul, and now it's just another corporate cash grab. I took a deep breath. The cracks were becoming visible. All I had to do was wait. Adriana had always craved reputation, status, influence, but she made one critical error. She thought she could replace me. She never realized the truth, that the heart of Chino's wasn't the investors, the decor, or the menu. It was me. And now, her empire was crumbling. I poured myself a drink that night, gazing out at the city skyline. For the first time in months, a smile spread across my face. Adriana had taken everything, my business, my pride, my dignity, but she overlooked one thing. I wasn't going to let her win. On a Friday night, I decided to see it for myself. I parked across the street from Savo's in a rental car. It used to have a wait list that stretched for weeks. People would line up outside, hoping for a cancellation. Now, it was nearly empty. A couple approached the door, checked their reservation, hesitated, whispered to one another, and then turned away. A few minutes later, a waiter stepped outside, leaned against the wall, and sighed. I could see it in his eyes, frustration, defeat. Savo's was on its last legs. My phone buzzed again. Marco. You're going to love this, he said, chuckling. They're bleeding money. A slow grin spread across my face. Adriana's new partner is cutting corners, using cheap ingredients. He even fired half the kitchen staff to save costs, Marco added, amused. The best part? Adriana's panicking. She's calling former employees and investors, trying to do damage control. I raised an eyebrow. Has she called me yet? Not yet, but she will, Marco replied. I stepped out of the car, heading toward the entrance of Savo's. As soon as I walked in, it was unrecognizable. The warmth, the character, it was all gone. No homemade pasta, no carefully crafted sauces, no soul. Then I heard it, Adriana's voice, sharp and frustrated. What do you mean? The shipment didn't arrive. I couldn't help but grin. They weren't even paying their bills. Savo's was running on fumes. My phone buzzed again. A message from Adriana. We need to talk. I laughed. Oh, Adriana, you need me now. And you're about to realize just how badly you've lost your way. At that moment, I understood Savo's no longer had warmth or life. No matter what happened tonight, I already won. I walked in, greeted by a strange smile from the hostess, no older than her teens. I chuckled and shook my head. I have a reservation. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded and led me to the back. I knew exactly where I was headed. Adriana always sat at the same table in the corner. It gave her a perfect view of everything, close enough to keep an eye on the kitchen, making it seem like she was still involved. But tonight, she wasn't in her usual spot. She was at my table, trying to get her hands dirty. Her partner was around, so she wasn't alone. I walked up, sitting next to her. She seemed less sure of herself than usual. Adriana flashed a grin, but I could see the tension in her jaw and the stress in her eyes. Darling, she purred. I pulled out a chair and calmly sat down. It had been too long. Cut the crap, Adriana. What do you, with a nervous smile? Her partner straightened up, cleared his throat, and began. We all know the restaurant's been struggling lately. I cut him off, my voice firm and rising in pitch. Adriana raised an eyebrow, took a sharp breath, and finally sighed. Fine, I'm dropping the act. We need help. I crossed my arms and leaned back, challenging her. And you think I'm the solution? Her partner flashed a forced smile. Come on. We all know you're good at what you do. I sat in silence for a moment, letting the tension build, before responding. You're fired. Adriana's voice became cold, businesslike, hiding her frustration. This place thrived for a reason. I'm sure it did, I said, my tone casual. But it's not thriving anymore. Her partner's temper flared the moment she offered him the chance to take over. We're giving you the opportunity to come back, he said, trying to sound convincing. You could fix everything. I raised an eyebrow. And what do I get in return? Adriana took a slow sip of her wine, then replied, 15%. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Her face flushed. What's so funny? She snapped. I leaned forward, grinning. After everything you did? Her partner's jaw clenched. So, you want to save your sinking ship for 15%? It's a fair offer, Adriana insisted. I shook my head, my smile fading. You don't get it. Adriana stiffened. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. The financial documents Marco had uncovered appeared on the screen, showing proof that she'd secretly been selling parts of Chino's to Sterling Development. Her partner's face drained of color as he snatched the phone and quickly scanned the documents. Adriana's hand gripped her wine glass tightly. Where did you get this? She whispered. It doesn't matter, I said calmly. What matters is that I know, and soon everyone else will too. Her partner slammed the phone down. You have no idea what you're talking about. But I did. I kept my tone steady. Sterling Development told me the same thing yesterday when I made them a better offer. So yes, Adriana, I do know. He scoffed. You think they'll just switch sides? I shrugged. They follow the money. And after reviewing your finances, they found you don't have any. Adriana took a shaky breath, realizing the blow had landed. She set her wine glass down, her voice barely a whisper. What do you want? Her partner slammed his hands down on the table. This restaurant, I replied with a grin. I pulled out another folder and slid it toward them. Inside were the formal buyout papers. Sterling Development had cut ties, and the investors, seeing the inevitable collapse, had shifted their focus. The landlord had transferred the lease back to me. Savos was mine again. Her partner stared at the papers, his face turning ashen. No, he murmured, his breath coming faster. Adriana froze, her nails digging into the table. You planned this, she said, her voice low and bitter. I nodded. Ever since you betrayed me. I stood up, the chair scraping sharply against the floor. This isn't over, Adriana hissed. I tilted my head, smirking. Actually, Adriana, you need to pack up and leave by the end of the night. Her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in a long time, regret. You didn't even think about forgiving me, did you? She whispered. I looked at her for a long moment, unable to look away, then turned and walked out. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of fulfillment as I stepped into the cool night air. Adriana and her so-called visionary partner were left to deal with the ruins of their arrogance. Justice had been served. I took out my phone and called Marco. It's done, I said, the words feeling like a weight lifted. There was a pause before I heard laughter on the other end. They never saw it coming. Adriana had spent years underestimating me, convinced she had all the power. But tonight, I had stripped her bare. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I crossed the street and stepped into a small cafe, ordering a coffee. I sat by the window, watching the world go by, feeling a quiet satisfaction as I watched the downfall of Savos unfold from a distance. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps the channel going, and I truly appreciate it. Hope you have an amazing and blessed day.